That is beautiful. When was the shed put up?
That was put up in the mid-90s, I believe a couple years after the organization was formed.
Okay.
It was an Eagle Scout.
It was an Eagle Scout project.
Oh,
And you write good letters.
Yeah.
He writes good letters.
And so the garden is new. Tell me about the garden.
Yeah,
Tell us about the garden.
With the garden, before they brought it in, and it was another Eagle Scout project, and it was a traditional 4-square garden. So we had bricks that we used from, I believe it was a bank or another building in Schnexville that they tore down, and we got the soft bricks. But they're soft bricks, so they're not like pavers. So they were all crumbling. We still have some. And we did it as a traditional 4-square garden. So you had your apothecary square, you had your sniffing garden, which is more of the herbs, and other aromatic cooking herbs, but Germans really didn't cook that much with a lot of seasonings. And then you had 2 plots designated for your kitchen garden. So they would actually try to get 2 harvests a year out of your kitchen garden. So this wasn't the normal potatoes and corn and wheat and all of that stuff that you would have in the normal standard fields, but this would be your greens. This would be your beets, your radishes, your peas. Sometimes they had some little bit of squash, but this was the stuff that they would use constantly. That's why it was also called a kitchen garden. So the way it always worked out is the men prepared it, and then the men would work the fields. So it was up to the children and the women to harvest and take care and weed and plant that garden. And it was always located on a sloping area of the property for better drainage. They were raised beds for better propagation, and it would always be close to the kitchen. That's why it kind of got the name of kitchen garden. So what we did is, because it was in disrepair, we used to have a gentleman who would work on the front to the garden area of it and the food plot sections, and then donate that food to a kitchen. But after a while, it just started to get more and more overgrown, and as you see on the Facebook group, you can see how it was so overgrown, and now it's to where it is. So what we wanted to do is revitalize it. So we redid the brick walks, and tilled everything up, and we're trying to change it and meld it so we can continue bringing more interest into the house. So in Emmaus they have, and you're familiar with that, Darlene, they have the commemorative garden in Emmaus, and that's by the 1803 house, the shelter house. So we got in contact with the guy who runs the commemorative garden, and he got us connected with who they use for bricks. Now the idea is, it's not a memorializing garden. This is a living, growing project where we want to dedicate people who have helped with the house. Other people not even related to the house can dedicate it. It's more of a fundraiser, as well as a way to come and remember and commemorate achievements, passings of loved ones, celebrations, graduations, things like that, that they can purchase a brick and have it laid. And then this will allow us to have dedication ceremonies throughout the year as we get these bricks coming in, and have events up here where we can have social gatherings to bring more interest into the organization and into the house. Because without that, this house is not worth anything. And I know the Kern family spent a ton of time. I was just rereading all of the stuff between the lawyers from 1989 until we were able to get the foundation created so we could preserve the house in 1994. There were letters already back from 89 to before it was even moved in 1994. So they were, Curtis and the Kern family really saw the value in this house, and the Kerns fought tooth and nail and were in negotiations with J. King to make sure this section of land would be preserved for the house. So I have articles on the one long bench in there showing the Amish guys that they hired to lifting up the house when it still had the original clapboard on it and bringing it over to this section here. And it was up to the Schneck family and the other organizations to create the Upper Lehigh Historical Society so we would be able to preserve it. Without that, this house would not be, because they had to have a historical society to preserve it and to have it go into some name, or it wouldn't exist. So, but long story short, the commemorative garden is about preserving that history and trying to do more outreach and bring the family back into this property and bring the community back into this property. So my vision is it's going to grow. So this is going to be the original footprint, but then as we get more bricks and as we get more involvement, my current vision is to create a nice walking path along the entire property. So you can come up here anytime and walk and have a place that this becomes the center again, because as we all know, Schnecksville has spread out. It's not, we don't have that main street anymore that it used to. You don't have the gross hotel anymore, it's apartments. Ray's dress, the men's dress haberdashery, or whatever you want to call that, is no longer here. So we need to have a center, and I want this to be the center, where people can come and we can hang out, we can learn about the history of Schnecksville by touching a living piece of it that is still here. The original, the other homestead, I believe it was the masonry one, is no longer here. That was demolished. So this is the last living Schneck history building right here. So, that's my field.
Thank you, Adam.
You're welcome.
Would you say again who you are?
I'm Adam Schneck, Adam Eugene Schneck. I am the president of the Upper Lehigh Historical Society.
And what generation are you?
I'd have to look at the Schneck Kern, but I think I'm 8th generation.
You're possibly 9th, because
8th or
I'm
9th.
8th and you're a bit younger than me. So
It's all
yeah.
because of all the children and all the lines that broke off. It's switched. I could be 9th. I think either 8th or 9th.
And who are you named after?
I am named after the original founder of our line, Adam Schneck.
Who came to Pennsylvania?
Came to Pennsylvania in 1749,
This is a test. Yes,
around that.
Yeah, you're right.
And then through the tax records shows he came up to the Lehigh Valley, Whitehall area in 1756, 57, and was able to get a warrant for this land. So he didn't buy the land. He had to get a warrant and to prove that he can develop this land before he could actually own the land or buy it. And it wasn't actually paid off by him, it was paid off through his sons, because that deed kept transferring through and his sons finally were able to pay it off.
Good. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is the log cabin belonging to the Schneck family. It was not the first log house that Adam Schneck built, but this log house was on Schneck land and constructed in the 1700s. It was originally across the street